Gather round, dads, it's time for a tale. Hand me a book and a warm pint of ale. Let's discuss writing and the literary gods with Dan Roberts on the Dadlit Pod.
Welcome to the Dadlit Pod, the literary podcast for people who constantly remind their kids to listen to Coach. Tonight I'm joined by Travis Davis, author of award-winning war stories books. Travis grew up in Arkansas, Spain, New York, and California. He joined the U.S. Army at 17 years old as an armored reconnaissance specialist and was stationed in various forts in the United States and Germany, where he met his beautiful wife. During his 3 tours in Germany, he conducted hundreds of border patrols along the East-West German border and Czechoslovakia-West German border, which we're definitely going to talk about because I lived in the Czech Republic for a while, where he saw firsthand communism and its oppression of its citizens, true. And he retired from the United States Army, and his last duty assignment was as assistant operations sergeant of the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment at Fort Polk, Louisiana. He's lived in Allen, Texas with his wife for over 35 years. He has 3 adult children, 2 daughters living in Arkansas, 1 son living in Northern Virginia, just like me, and 5 wonderful grandchildren. His new book, War on the Porch, is out now. It's out now, right?
October.
Oh, it's out in October.
Hmm.
But I got a copy of it and have read it, and we're going to talk about it tonight.
Excellent. Excellent.
So we were
Thank you.
talking before this, and we got, because it's very interesting what you brought up, which is that you don't like to write from the perspective of an officer because you were never an officer, and
Hmm.
that perspective you feel you can't, or you're not inclined to do because it
Right.
has a different connotation with it. Tell me about that, because I'm really
Yeah.
excited to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was like you said, I joined Army at 17. I quit high school, 11th grade,
Hmm.
on a Friday, and Tuesday I was in basic training.
Hmm.
And so I've always been up through the NCO ranks, enlisted NCO. Now, the only way I could probably write maybe a second lieutenant, but then I would get lost somewhere and I'd have to find my way back by the help of an NCO. But yeah, I write from that perspective because that I know how privates operate. I understand how NCOs operate. I know the modus operandi of them. I know how they think, how they work in different situations, and how they problem solve and go through all these different things. And I try to write like that as an NCO of, lead by example and have trust in your men. You got to gain that relationship with them, and you really got to hone their skills at the same time you're honing your skills.
Yeah, and tell me about your new book,
Mhm.
War on the Porch, that I just completed. He's got it up,
So
and
yeah,
it's very interesting, and I have a zillion questions about it. But you tell me, you tell me about the book.
yeah. So interesting enough, this porch is my grandparents' porch,
Hmm.
and I I wrote my first book, one of four, World War One, and then I wanted to write another one about World War One. And I tried to find something interesting about something, and I found out about a soldier went blind in an artillery attack. So I decided to tell his story in that perspective, but it's a story that he has never told because it's so remarkable that nobody ever believed him. And General Pershing said, "You can't tell anybody."
Hmm.
Um, One, it's a secret mission, and two, nobody's going to believe you. They're going to think you're crazy. So he kept that inside of him, you know, 50 years until the 50th anniversary of World War One in 1968, where he's interviewed by a reporter who's who was in World War II as a fighter pilot and
Hmm.
whose father was killed in World War One, but his body had never been found. He's missing, labeled missing in action.
Mm.
So that's why it's kind of critical that you read one of four, because you'll see some tie-ins to War on the Porch. And I wanted to tell a story from around the Second Battle of the Marne and give it some. I really try to write where I want people to, when they're done reading, they miss the characters,
Mm-hmm.
that they almost become them, because I want to write it from that perspective. I want to, tug at you.
Hmm. I think it's interesting. So, one of the elements of the book, The War on the Porch, is that the journalist who's engaging with a World War I soldier, um, being a World War II veteran, but also being at that first generation of oral
Mm.
historians. So professionally, I'm a historian, and I've done
Okay.
oral histories. And I think it's interesting to do a book with the perspective of oral history
Hmm.
because, and particularly the way you do it, I like the way that you did it, where the interviewer in this case was a P-38 pilot, I
Hmm.
believe.
Yes.
And the interviewer has his own experience and has his own empathy, but has to engage and communicate that
Hmm.
to the subject of the interviewee,
Hmm.
which is one of these things that a lot of people talk about oral history as a challenging topic,
Yep.
because particularly when you engage with somebody and when you interview somebody, so much of that is contingent
Hmm.
on the interviewer and what the interviewer is able to bring out, or
Hmm.
how the interviewee views the interviewer. And I think you did a really good job in the book of
Oh, thank you.
just demonstrating that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the title really became, you know, back in the day, a lot of people, they'd sit around the porch, and that's where they told their stories, right?
Yeah.
Sitting on the porch, churning ice cream, or whatever they were doing. That's when they told their stories, and I wanted to capture that and get that Americana, right? That really
Hmm.
what America is kind of about, and be able to tell the story in a way that is relatable and actually helps Gordon get through some things.
Yes. Yeah. And so, where'd you do your research for the book?
I do a lot. I buy books, like I read the Second Battle of the Marne, right? I want to get,
Hmm.
because I want to get that accurate. I do a lot of research on the internet. I read just a lot of different books and articles about the subject that I want to talk about in the book.
Hmm.
And I always try to find something that's unique in there. That, like, uh, General Pershing would visit soldiers in the hospital. I'm like, well, maybe he's going to visit this guy, right? Or there's real characters in it there that lived at that time and fought.
Hmm.
Um, just like in one of four, it talks, the first director of the CIA is in it, Dulles, because he spoke German and he was in the army in World War One. He was a spy. So I
Yes.
brought him in there, right? So I try to find those things, because I want to make history interesting. Then I want the reader to go ahead and say, you know what, now let me do some further research on this particular thing. And I
Hmm.
think we're missing, or we're losing out on the effect of World War One had on then, but now,
Hmm.
and the way the geopolitical boundaries were set, that we're still still messing with right now. When countries were formed when they shouldn't have been countries.
Yeah, talk more about that, because this is obviously an interesting thing,
Mm.
particularly when you talk about the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire, the
Yep.
dissolution of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the dissolution of even the Russian Empire, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, all of those countries
Hmm.
emerged differently through kind of from territorial
Mhm.
boundaries that had been established by kingdoms and
Yep.
ethnicities and
Yep.
languages. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's hear more about that.
Yeah. Look at the African continent, right? Germany had the
Yes.
Congo, and they had to give that up.
Yes.
So who came in? Look at Afghanistan,
Hmm.
uh, you know, Iraq, Iran, all that Middle Eastern part. Then you have to look at what were the ramifications of the Treaty of Versailles,
Hmm.
where Germany had to give up so much. And then, Hitler came to power under the auspices of we have to get our country back, right?
Hmm.
As the way he did it was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
However, that's what the genesis of all of this. And we fought, World War II because of World War One. We had the Cold War because of World War One.
Yeah.
We have some of these conflicts that are going on today because of World War One, because you know people the tribalism still exists in a lot of part of the world. It's hard to get those people together to form a country that's successful.
Hmm.
And then so we the League of Nations, the United Nations, and all how that came to be, and what the superpowers that came out of World War One. There's even in World War One, the Germans offered Mexico, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico if they opened a southern front.
Yes.
They were like, I don't think so. We just got our butt kicked by Pershing and a bunch of guys on horses. So I don't think we're gonna.
Well, the underappreciated thing about, and I think you're speaking about the Zimmerman telegram,
Yeah,
uh, is that Mexico in 1914 to 1918 had enough problems maintaining its own territorial
yeah,
integrity
yeah,
without entering into conflict with the
yes,
United States, which for those who are unfamiliar, Pershing would achieve. Uh, I mean, obviously, other than his time with the 10th
yep,
Cavalry, would achieve his sort of American fame
yep,
as the person who led the punitive expedition against Pancho Villa,
exactly,
who
exactly.
was a violent criminal
Hmm.
who liked to dash across the border
Hmm.
and commit crimes and then recede back
Yes,
over.
yeah, and even from the perspective of the Army, right? The Army before World War One didn't have divisions, and the first expeditionary went out in June 20 something. That's when they landed in France. And out of
Yeah.
that became the first infantry division, the second infantry division, the third infantry division, the fourth, the fifth, all these divisions. And that's what something that, World War One created that, right? We just didn't
Yes.
have that. And we had these
Yes.
little outposts, Fort Riley, of course, because of the Indian wars, and you had a lot down the southern border because of the issues with Pancho Villa and the Mexicans.
Yeah, we had the regimental system, which is
Yes.
actually very similar to what the British had, which
Hmm.
were local, right?
Hmm.
It was a locally raised organization, and then of course
Yep.
when World War One came along, we needed to put together just massive groups of men.
Hmm.
Um, and the division system would change, obviously, in World War II
Yes.
to be much smaller.
Hmm.
But during World War One, it was we're going to put together, or well, the regimental system. The regimental
Hmm.
system in
Yep.
World War One
Yep.
had 4 battalions, whereby in World War Two it would have three. And
Hmm.
the underlying idea was that you needed to have enough men to send into the maelstrom
Hmm.
of artillery and machine gun fire,
Yep.
which was a Pershing idea,
Hmm.
founded on his own belief on the necessity of concentrated attack.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, coming out of a trench. machine gun fire just raking across, your buddies, and the horrific nature of World War One. The American population wasn't ready for what the soldiers and how they came back. They came
Yeah.
back with horrific wounds, uh, shell shock, we call post-traumatic stress syndrome
Yeah.
now. And but they didn't talk about it, right? They just,
Mhm.
like World War II, they just went on their way and went to work.
Well, interestingly enough, they were aware
Mhm.
of shell shock in World War
Yes.
II.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if you look at old magazine advertisements, which is an interesting thing to look at,
Hmm.
in circa 1945 to 1946, one of the things that you'll see images of women with the men sort of looking off into the distance and
Hmm.
her looking concerned.
Hmm.
And the advertisement will be for like what is was then double mint gum.
Oh,
to
wow.
sort of to sort of he's already going through a lot. Keep
Yeah.
your breath fresh for him
Yeah.
when
Give
he
him a piece
comes
of gum.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were very observant about this, and
Yep.
it was understood, but the expectation was that the war was over, right?
Hmm.
The guys came home,
Yep.
the war was over, and that the sort of idea that there would be a
Hmm.
lasting
Hmm.
a mental and emotional effect that would go on for decades or the rest of
Yep.
their lives was
Yep.
not a thing that they talked about, and I think for a reason.
Hmm.
And that had to do with when you send people in a democracy into battle,
Hmm.
um, you don't necessarily want to talk about the repercussions.
Right.
Yeah.
And just the mentality of, is it manly? Is it, are you showing a weakness and all that? I think that a lot of the soldiers and came back, and so they just kept it. They compartmentalized it, right? And they
Yes.
did, and then as
Or
Patrick.
they didn't. And
Hmm.
I think I recently read James Wade's book. He's also from Texas,
Hmm.
and he also wrote about a World War One veteran, which is interesting. In his new book, Narrow the Road, and he talked about the idea that some people didn't come back.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is interesting. I thought it was interesting because you also are a Southern writer that World
Yeah.
War One has come up.
Right. Yep.
Are you guys just doing World War One down there?
No, I created a series called 20th Century War Stories, and I try to connect them from one
Okay.
of four. So I'm doing another World War One book. Then I think I'm going to jump to World War Two, and then to
Hmm.
Korea and Vietnam. Cold War. I want to do the whole iteration of 20th Century War Stories,
Hmm.
um, and take it, from the perspective of from the soldier,
Hmm.
from his perspective, from his voice. Like in one of four, the story of the soldier, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, is I said I wanted to tell the story, his story that he couldn't verbalize, but he
Hmm.
wrote, and that's the whole thing around that diary, the importance of the diary, and how a 100-year-old diary can affect a father and son present day,
Hmm.
because the war was 105 years, 7 years now, something like that, and that by reading his diary and following the footsteps, the son can see what war did to his father and why his
Hmm.
father's like he is. So now he's got more empathy for him on how he acts. And then in this book, how Patrick, um, again, his story is so amazing, but he couldn't tell anybody. But I don't even know if he ever wanted to be honest with you, until he started talking to Gordon. And Gordon had they they hit it off because Patrick was helping soldiers when he got back. He learned how to play the piano. He became almost a prodigy when he went blind. And he
Mhm.
goes, and it talks in the book. He had to repay a debt, and his wife was like, I never even heard him say something like that. What is that? And so you can see the evolution of him. Then he wants to talk about it, but does he want to get into such that it'll affect his wife?
Mhm.
How is she going to see him? But it's a love story too about Patrick and Pauline, and how it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She's there for him.
I think, a lot of people have never been to Arkansas or Texas.
Yeah, that's true.
And I like to say that the men in Arkansas are well-meaning,
Mhm,
but they're sardonic, right?
mhm,
They're they like to keep you at an arm's length, but they're very moral and
mhm.
forthright and honest.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think you really captured that with your
Thank you.
characters. There's an element of um, manly expectation, and I
Mhm.
came from what would you call it? Post sensitive sensitivity training guy, New England,
Right.
where everyone up here who came from a white collar family was told that therapy is essential,
Right.
communication is essential, and it's okay to be sad,
Right.
and it's okay to talk about it. And then I moved to Arkansas, and
Mhm.
and that was not the case. That was
Right.
that was not the expectation.
No.
And at the same time, there was a sort of quiet dignity and a quiet cycling of thought, but it was kept internalized.
Mhm.
And I think you really captured that in the book. I was reminded of Place very
Mhm.
much when I read it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I enjoy I do enjoy writing, but I want to be able to tell a story, tell it in a way that's meaningful, get some history out of, get some knowledge you don't even think you're getting. I mean, it's like all of a
Mhm.
sudden you learn something that you're just, you're reading a book. So I do like that. And I like bringing the characters out and then make it not just about the war, but about, just not a war book. It's a book about war and the
Yeah,
ramifications of war. All the books are like that.
yeah. What, where did you get your sort of style inspiration or your narrative inspiration? What are you reading, and what have you read
Mhm.
that you think helped you to become the writer that could articulate these stories?
Yeah, I wrote I think the first book that I remember that I read was The World According to Garp. And
Hmm.
that's a big book, right? I read a lot of Tom Clancy, Clive Cussler, Robert Ludlum, Dan Brown, the Destroyer series from long ago. Um, and I do read this. I don't think I've ever read anybody that writes like I do.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just haven't found it. But I read a lot of inspirational books like from Vietnam and Korea and World War II and the current conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. I love reading about those soldier stories and how they persevered in just unrealistic scenarios. I like reading about those things.
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with you. Your style has uh, a thing that I find is missing in a lot of books that I read, particularly
Mhm.
war novels and thrillers, is the question of quiet contemplation. And that comes across a lot in War on the Porch.
Mhm.
There are sort of interludes where you present the story, right? Where the World War I soldier
Mhm.
is telling the story, and we transition into that. Then we come back and they serve pie
Yeah.
because it takes a long time to have
Mhm.
that conversation, right?
Yep.
It's a conversation is not instantaneous. It's not, it's not a moment.
Mhm.
It's yeah, you would get tired. You'd need a little sugar,
Mhm.
and the wife as a person present would interfere. And I think that's interesting, and you're definitely right. You don't see that a lot,
Right.
particularly in books about war, where you take a little minute to go have pie and some
Yeah.
and some tea.
That's Southern hospitality. I mean,
Yeah, the Southern
that's just Southern
hospitality.
hospitality. Have some tea, lemonade. You're staying for
Yes,
dinner, and you're not
I
driving back to
was
Little Rock. It's too late.
I yeah, I was reminded of many a an oral history experience.
Yeah.
Have you ever done any yourself personally?
Done what?
Oral histories?
Um, I don't think so. I don't think so. Like tell a story orally?
No, have you ever gone and interviewed a person and recorded it?
No, no.
So you just went with just like questions that a P-38 pilot who got shot down would
Yeah.
definitely ask a blind guy from World War One.
I, I, and even when I do some of my thrillers or whatever, what if I did that job? What would I want to know? What would I want the outcome to be? What would I want it to do?
Mhm.
What would it look like? So I'm saying, because I don't outline, I just write,
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
and I'd never get done. And so I'm like, oh, so who? I let the story flow,
Yeah.
and how do I, make it interesting and they continue. There's a scene in War on the Porch where Pauline makes breakfast,
Mm,
right? That is the exact way that my grandmother made breakfast.
mhm,
My dad and me, we would drive. We lived in Arkansas when I was older. We would drive an hour on Saturday or Sunday morning to go eat breakfast at my grandma's house.
mhm,
So I wanted to put that, and then I wanted to, make that. I can almost visualize that, and that's what people when they read, they can visualize what is going on, even in the war scenes, which are some horrific war scenes in there, but they have to be.
mhm. It's vibrant.
Yeah.
My hat is off to you in that way. That's why I was interested in where you went to
Mhm.
for, particularly from the question of style,
Mhm.
because like I said, it's the book is structured as an interview
Mhm.
that goes back in time, comes back, and
Mhm.
then follows the interviewer through their experience as a P
Mhm.
38 pilot.
Mhm.
And I think I commented on Twitter that the P 38 is one of the underappreciated
Oh, it's a marvel. My
vessels.
mom built those in World War II.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah, yeah. She's a Rosie the Riveter. Oh yeah.
They are so underappreciated because, of course, back in the day,
Mhm.
the P-51 didn't go
Yes.
very far.
Right. Right. They had to put
The
tanks on it.
P-38,
Yeah.
the P-38 was the long range interceptor
Mhm.
reconnaissance,
Yep.
and also for a period the escort with the B-24s flying out of
Mhm.
Italy that
Yep.
bombed the Pelosi oil fields.
Yep. Yeah, they were a marvelous airplane. That and I know talking about the Mosquito and the P-51 and the P-47. I'm big into airplanes. I love airplanes. I should have joined the Air Force, but I wanted to go in the Army.
Ironically, if you wanted to fly planes, you should have joined the Navy because they
Yeah,
have
that's
more
true.
planes than the Air
Yeah,
Force.
and the Army has more ships than the Navy, uh, boats and ships or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
and when I write, I try to make the books theatrical.
Hmm.
Almost, I hear it all the time. Why aren't this should be a movie?
Hmm.
I wrote it because I'm a visual thinker, I'm a visual learner. That's
Hmm.
the way I like to write.
I'm gonna be honest, got some Bridges of Madison County vibes.
Mm,
Very, very bucolic, pastoral, that sort of thing, mixed in with the flashbacks, which are not to a love affair between a photographer and a guy's mom, but
mm,
instead from the perspective of reflecting upon the conflicts.
mm. Yeah.
So here's the next question.
Mm.
What's next? What's the next story?
The next story is about the last cavalry charge in World War One, and
Ooh,
then how
it didn't go well.
no, and actually it is it. The main character is actually a World War One veteran that became a movie star in old
Hmm.
westerns, and that's the main character, and how he transitions into the Tank Corps with Patton.
Hmm.
That whole thing and how that story comes about with
Hmm.
him.
And of course, Patton, before he was in the Tank Corps, was a
He was a
cavalryman.
cavalry officer. That's where the
Yes,
cavalry sword came from. He designed it.
yes.
That was in the cavalry 20 years. Not the horse, but in different
Yeah,
facets.
the air
Air
cav.
and feet and Bradley and Humvee and all these other things. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm writing right now.
Mhm. So tell me about your service. Did you find the Army to be
Mhm.
all that you thought it would be?
Yeah, initially I went in. I remember when I went to get do the ASVAB, I went to MEPS and everything, and I was sitting outside. Of course, I'm 17 years old, right? I'm in outstanding shape. I'm just and captain sits next to me and he goes, "So what job are you looking at?" I go, "Well, they offered like telephone linemen and some radio stuff and everything." He goes, "What?" He goes, "You ever heard of a thing? It's called Armor Reconnaissance Specialist." I go, "What's that?" He goes, "Well, he talked about you go outside, you're outside, you can do this and that." I'm like, "Oh my God, that's what I want to do." So it was 11 Delta at the time. So I do that, and recruiter picks me up and drives me home. And he says, "So what MOS did you choose?" I go, "I want to be 11 Delta." He goes, "Have you lost your effing mind?" But I have to tell you, um, that was probably that MOS afforded me to do more things than I would have ever been able to do from um, initially my first unit out of AIT at Fort Knox was in the first Delta Troop first and fourth Cav, Air Cav. They're a blues
Mhm.
platoon that was transitioning into a recon platoon. And these pilots since 1977, these pilots were Vietnam or UE pilots,
Yeah.
just amazing, amazing individuals to fly like nobody. Then I went to Germany, did the Czech border with Second Armored Cavalry Regiment, Third Squadron, and then I went back to Fort Hood, where I was in Air Six Air Cav Combat Brigade, and I was left front seat in OH-58. So I got flight status, right? Not a lot of 19 Deltas have, they were entirely the whole career had wings, aviator
Mhm.
wings, or crewman wings. And then uh, went back to Germany. I was in third squadron, seventh Cav, and did the East German border up in Coburg sector. And that's where I met my wife. She's from a town about 11 clicks from the border. And that's where I did a lot of the patrols. Then I went back to Fort Knox and taught the armor school, 19 Delta stuff, and then went back to Germany. Scout Platoon 364 Armor stayed there. Then went to back to Fort Polk. But yeah, so I did. I loved the Army. I think it shaped me who I am because I'm able to adapt to so many different situations, and I don't let a lot of things get to me. You know, from a stress perspective, I'm like, okay, you're not gonna roll up and poke me in the eye, right? I mean, you're just and a lot, but then also being able to like when I got out of the Army, I did technical sales for EDS, Microsoft, Altiris, a bunch of technology companies. but I was never intimidated in walking into a conference room where the CEO was there because
Mhm.
I had spoken and met with four-star generals who had a lot more control over my life than those
Infinite,
CEOs or the command
infinite
sergeant
control.
major, man. I mean, so I never was intimidated. So you build those relationships in those settings too, because at least one person was ex-military. No
Mhm.
matter what branch, what rank, and you got a connection. Now I can build trust. Um, and it allowed me to do a lot of different things, with my life. And my son was in the army, so he got out about 5 years ago. He lives in Manassas, up in Northern Virginia,
Mhm.
and so yeah, so it afforded him a lot of things, right? My dad was 20 years Air Force, afforded him a lot of things. So I think it's, I love it. I would highly recommend if you don't know what you want to do, you do know what you want to do, take some time and do it. And, it'll just, whatever branch you want to go in, I don't care what you do. But the Army to me is very special, and soldiers are very special. When I used to interview people, uh, there's two things that I would instantly uh, zero in on: your fingernails and your shoes. Is
Oh,
that
to make sure those bad boys are shined.
the shoes were not dirty and your nails were clean, because if you're being technical sales, you're selling millions of dollars of product. You can't go into with dirty fingernails, and you got
Mhm.
to have your shoes shine. It's just,
Th-
I don't know, it's quirky.
This is my question. How many people came in with dirty fingernails?
Oh, you'd be surprised. You,
No,
oh yeah.
really.
Look, some people just don't take care of themselves. I mean, yeah,
Well, this is actually a super interesting
yeah.
question
Some people just don't
because
take care of
I'm
themselves.
compulsively clean my fingernails.
Yeah, some people just. I mean, some people are hard workers. You could tell if they're hard. They work with their hands, no problem. But
Yeah.
I mean, trim, cut, do something. But yeah, I mean, it was just something. There's a pet peeve of mine. But the shoes too. I got to look at your shoes. If you look like you just haven't touched a brush lately, then
Mm.
it's attention to detail, I think, is what it all comes down to.
So when did you sit down and decide I'm going to start writing books? I'm retired from the
2022.
military 2022. What did it?
I was sitting in a sales meeting and I was bored. So I had an idea about a book. I said, wow, man, this is a good story. So a, a very good friend of mine who just passed away in June unexpectedly. I've known him as a platoon leader. He was retired from the Army. I call him Lieutenant Bertonetti, but it was Colonel Bertonetti.
Mhm.
Passed away recently. And I called him. I said, Scott, and we kept in touch over these whole years. Since 1993, we've kept in touch. Really, I'll do anything for him. And I said, Scott, I think I got an idea for a book. Yeah, I did him. He goes, that's a good premise. You ought to do it. So I did it. And every book that I've ever written, I've talked to him about. But this next book, except in my mind.
Yeah. Um, I think it's underappreciated uh, how much friends contribute
Oh yeah.
to uh, particularly male authors. I don't think
Hmm.
anyone just sits down and says, I'm going to write this book just for me.
Yep. Yeah.
And I don't know if you've listened to other episodes, but I was finally inspired to sit down and to do it
Hmm.
by my best friend. He said to me, COVID has happened.
Hmm.
We are locked inside of our houses,
Yep.
which is weird.
Yep.
But we've been talking about writing detective stories
Oh,
for the
cool.
longest time.
Uh-huh.
And so we decided we were gonna start writing detective stories and that we'd meet every month and review each other's work and
Hmm.
encourage each other.
Yeah.
And I did just the worst job.
Oh, me
I
too. My
never
first one was terrible.
well, I couldn't get it out of my head. I think I expected myself to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how
Yep.
challenging that is.
Hmm.
Particularly when you're coming at it, I think what was that, 5 years ago? 36.
Yeah.
I write history, and
Hmm.
I know how to write a history book.
Right.
But I was coming at it, and I was like, man, how do I do this? And it really took me just writing every day and
Hmm.
sitting down and doing it. Um,
So what's the inspiration behind the detective books? Just from you just
oh,
like that genre
we
and figuring
just
out a
we just
crime or
we just sort of like the mystery genre.
mm,
And I had this idea. My father's a defense attorney, and he used to be a
okay.
prosecutor, and he employs private detectives. And
Hmm.
so I had this grand idea that I was going to write a book about my dad's private detective, who's actually a person who I'm very friendly with. I'm not going
Yeah.
to say her name because obviously private detectives
That's
need to
private.
maintain a
Yeah.
somewhat of an anonymity.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I just couldn't do it. I couldn't like sit down, and I didn't feel the discipline to make it
Hmm.
happen. Then I was like, okay, but I've always had ideas kicking around. They
Hmm.
just live in the back of my head.
Right.
And I was like, I want to write about the Spanish American War because I did naval documents of the Spanish American War for my job.
Hmm.
And I was like, there's this weird instance where the United States was terrified that the Spanish were going to hire privateers to attack the gold shipment from Alaska to San Francisco.
Huh.
And the
Interesting.
Spanish knew this, and they
Right.
sent one of their guys, one of their naval attaches,
Hmm.
out to Vancouver to make a big ruckus about signing on privateers to attack the Yukon gold shipment, which
Right.
was, I mean, a big deal
Oh yeah.
back then. It was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And I still might write it one day. And I got it started, and I just didn't have it. I just
Hmm.
didn't have that. I didn't have I wrote it too much as a historian. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Too much exposition, that sort of
Right.
stuff. And then he went and wrote his book and published it.
Oh. Awesome.
But in the process, one of the characters is the character's a retired Chicago detective who moves
Hmm.
to Ithaca in
Yep.
Greece and then solves a case on the island of Ithaca. He effectively based a character on me, who was the loudmouthed, uh, pseudo aggressive, kind of annoying,
Hmm.
borscht belt, Jewish humor, uh, chief of
Hmm.
detectives at the
Right.
Chicago PD named
Uh-huh.
Dick Bornman. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to write Dick Bornman's story. I'm going to write Dick Bornman in
Hmm.
retirement. And the second I surrendered myself to the idea of being a loudmouthed, retired, uh,
Hmm.
drunken
Yeah.
uh, detective chief of police,
Yeah.
I was just having so much fun. And it
That's
came
what you got to
out,
have when you're
you
right.
just got
You
to
got to have
have
fun.
fun. And
Yep.
it came out good.
Yeah. Yeah. You can tell.
Which is weird. And you can tell.
Hmm.
And when I realized that it was good,
Hmm.
I said, maybe I've been standing in my way this whole time. And that's why that was 4 years ago.
Hmm.
And I've been writing ever since, writing,
That's what you got to do. Yeah.
just
If,
unencumbered, like
yeah.
yourself.
You feel a little, feel a story that you've got to get out and how are you going to get it out and
Hmm.
make it interesting and, what's it from a timeline perspective or whatever. Yeah. But then then when you get it, you go, oh, you know what? I mean, I don't know how many books I've started, I get into it and I'm like, okay, I can't see I can see the ending. I just can't see some of the middle. So,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
you do that. And I'll put them away and then I'll write on something else. Oh, you know what? Let me go back to this, and then I'll start, hammering that a little bit. But it's not. It's I have a very chaotic process of writing, evidently.
Oh no, that's my process. 100%.
Yeah.
I've started about five,
Yep.
and I've kind of outlined them in
Hmm.
that I know where the story's going and what the story's about.
Hmm.
Though I find going for a nice walk or a nice
Oh, I love to
run,
walk in the morning. It clears my head.
oh yeah, clears the head
Yeah.
and creates a sort of kinetic thinking process that really charges the mind. And then I play it out in my head like a movie. And I
Hmm.
say, how do I make this interesting? How
That's
would
the way I do it
James
too.
Cameron,
Yeah.
like, how would a brilliant director like James Cameron make this story interesting at this point? What
Yep.
would the characters look like? What would they say? How would they
Yep.
do it?
Yeah. I try
Yeah.
to. I like listening to country and western music too when I'm walking, and I'll think of okay, just let me put it like this, and then again from a very cinematic uh, perspective of the
Hmm.
book. But yeah, I do that, and
Who's your
I just like getting the mind mentally going.
who's your go-to country music to drive it
Uh,
up?
you know, uh, George Strait. I like a lot of the old Conway Twitty and uh, shoot. My dad, Creedence Clearwater Revival. You know, it's not country and western, but I remember
It
listening to
is country
that.
and western.
And then a
It's
lot of George Jones and
oh yeah, George
just the
Jones is the
old,
best.
Patsy Cline, and I just love that music and because it tells such a story. They're all stories,
Yeah.
and they're writing about. So I do like I like that and just kind of relaxing.
So
I mean, I love rock
you're
and roll. I mean, people say, how do you got Travis, you have quite the imagination. I mean, I say, I grew up in the 70s. I mean, it was a
nothing but
wild time.
imagination.
A bunch of stuff wrapped up in here.
So you're a Texas author. Do you consider
Hmm.
yourself a Texas author, an Arkansas author, or a veteran author?
I would probably say a veteran author.
Yeah.
I've lived in Texas. I'm 66. I've lived in Texas 30 something years. This time 29 years and then Fort Hood. I have three kids and they're all born in Texas, you know.
There you
Um,
go.
so they're Texans. But yeah, then in Arkansas from a family perspective, is where you get some of the every so every one of the World War One books so far, there's a town called Ball Knob. That's a real town, by the way.
Hmm.
They're in all the books because they have a family there in my heart. There's my grandmother, and a lot of my aunt and uncles and stuff lived. Um, so I always add that in there because it's not, you blink and boom, you're done. You're right.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that's important to kind of have some of your family, and even in we're on the porch. There's a picture. I have some pictures up here, and it's my wife's great grandfather who's in the First World War as a German soldier. There's a picture of him in there. So I just kind of add some family to it.
Hmm. I had a terrific question for you, and now it's completely dashed my mind.
Feels like a
Because
chapter.
yeah, yeah. Just having too much fun. Uh, okay, so what are you reading other than what you're writing? Because this is a
So,
big thing. The dad lit
mm,
community wants to know what dads are reading. And I've discovered that it is very difficult
mm,
to go to a store and to know if something is attractive or good for dads.
yeah. So a great way to know what I read is by my little series I call Book and a Beer.
Yes.
And I get a lot of books sent to me. So I say, you know what, let me read them. And these are people that, you know, independent author like myself, they don't have
Hmm.
PR firm going after them or whatever. So I'll read those. I like to get that out. And I read a diversity of books. Um, I, I t- Sam Whitfield. I don't know if you know Sam or not, but he sent me a book, uh, Shadows of the Assassin. So it's a series of book, the fourth book. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, it reminds me of the Destroyer series back in the early 70s, late 70s. So I started ordering those books. I'm going to start reading those. So Book and a Beer tell you what I'm kind of reading because I'll go from, Kyle Mills, uh, to, Sam, to Eric Bishop, to, just a lot, Stratton, Steve Stratton.
Mhm.
Um,
Where can people find Book and a Beer?
Book and a Beer it's on Twitter, uh, author Travis, real TW Davis, my uh, YouTube channel, uh, author Travis Davis. It's on, TikTok and Instagram. Find me all over. And they're a minute and a half. And so far, I haven't drank the same beer twice.
What goes into selecting the beer? What about the book
Yeah.
causes the beer taste? Because,
It-
and I'll say this, you're very similar to me from a writing perspective in
mm,
that you include food
yeah.
in the experience.
Yeah. It's just,
I
yeah.
set so many scenes in restaurants
Yep.
and have so many meals of food that I like to sort of let the action rest for a moment
Mm,
and describe the food. Because when you have a setting, in order to give that setting some
yep.
vibrance, you have to have food, I think.
Yes.
Otherwise you
Yeah.
haven't captured the place if you haven't had food. And I think probably that's because I'm a big food and booze animal. And when I go
Yeah.
to
I mean,
town,
I'm not a foodie, but I like to eat. Um,
yes.
and I don't
That's
think
what I'm saying. I like to
there's nothing
eat.
that I, I don't think there's nothing that I just won't at least try at least once.
Yeah.
Uh, and from the beer perspective, it'll be maybe location
Hmm.
or the time period or something. I say, oh, that's kind of neat from where the author might be to where he might live. Uh, what's local, and I'll travel. I go, oh, there's I don't know if are you close to Manassas at all?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a place, Eavesdrop Brewery in Centerville off of
Hmm.
27, I think, 127 or 27, whatever. It's Centerville Road. It's just
Yeah.
nightmare. Eavesdrop Brewery.
It is.
Uh, so Eavesdrop Brewery, my son first when he moved there, we went there and I go, I love this place. Sam that owns it. So I'll go there and I'll do a book and a beer there, or I'll do a book and a beer at anywhere I'm out and about. I did one last weekend at my daughter's house in Arkansas. Um, so I'll do that and I'll try to, put that blend of beer with it and talk about the beer, about the book, um, and kind of join them together. Like I already know
Hmm.
what beer I'm going to do with, War on the Porch. As a matter of fact, last summer, my wife and I we're going to go to Italy and Germany. My wife's German, so we're going to Italy and Germany, and then they had some floods. We're like, what are we going to do? We go, well, I wrote one of four that takes place in northern France. So we relived one of four.
Hmm.
We went to the places in the book and where the soldier actually could have been, you know.
Hmm.
And then we wound up in Arlington National Cemetery, where I interviewed one of the sentinels uh,
Hmm.
of the guard. So, kid, I wanted to bring that out too. Because I was doing a book signing, and a kid probably 20 some years old. He said, what's this book about? I said, it's a book about the tomb of the unknown soldier from World War One. He goes, what's that? Well, first I was like, okay. Then I go to Arlington
Yeah, they're
National
not great.
Cemetery, and he goes, "Where's that?" And I said, "Okay, now we really have a problem."
Kids.
And so I decided to do a veterans special. It's like 30 minutes long, but I want to talk the origins of Veterans Day.
Hmm.
So I did that. It all encompasses. I met the sculptor that did the World War One memorial,
I
and
saw that there.
yeah, he's a
And by
great
the
guy.
way, it's gorgeous.
It is beautiful. It
Yeah,
is
no,
moving.
I've seen it. It's I'm kind of a memorial snob,
Yeah.
and I wrote a sci-fi novel about
Mm,
a sort of what would happen if a small group of astronauts saved the world from an asteroid. And a
mm.
lot of the things I put in there were memorials to them
Yeah,
and those sort of things.
I highly
And
recommend. Sabin Howard is just an amazing artist. So we
oh,
actually went to the dedication.
beautiful. Oh,
Uh,
great.
and we went to the after party, and it was fantastic. So he's a great individual, great patriot, and so
Mhm.
the Doughboy Foundation met some folks in there, and so it just kind of came around. But yeah, so the book and a beer, uh, it started as just a picture of a book and a beer. And I go, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool,
That's
but
not enough.
I like to talk. And I normally do them in one cut. I'm just boom, let it
So
out. My wife films
you're
it,
not chugging the beer.
but I do take a drink. I don't sip it. I will,
Yeah.
put some down because it tastes delicious. Um, but yeah, and I want to, keep doing those. And, if anybody, wants their book on it, just, let me know. You can send me a book or whatever. I'll be more
So
than happy to do
where
it.
do you want them to engage you with on
They
Twitter
can engage
or
me on Travis at Random Thoughts LLC, Random Thoughts,
yep.
on Twitter, Instagram, wherever, and we'll get a hold of them, and we'll do a book. A lot. They get pretty good, a lot of views. They get
Well, yeah,
the
yeah,
niche.
yeah. I mean,
That are quick.
I think you know, I was I as you know, perpetually live on Twitter these days.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of deadlit authors on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't even gone over to Blue Sky or wherever it is.
Yeah.
I imagine there are a lot over there. And they talk about how it's kind of a chore promoting their book. And I disagree. I think that if you make it fun, if
Mm-hmm.
you make it a thing that you enjoy,
Yeah.
promoting a book can be the best thing in the world,
Yep.
because it's exciting to share it with people and it's exciting to do it. And a book and a beer is a great way to do it.
Well,
And
thank you.
yeah, no, I'm a big fan. If I ever can convince anyone to publish my books, I'm sending them over to you to get a
Excellent.
beer selection
Oh hell yeah.
associated.
We'll do a flight. We'll do a flight of book, a flight of beer. Haven't
Flight.
thought about that. That's a good idea. Um,
Tablet flight.
but yeah, I mean, it's I enjoy it, and it's a way. What I found out is on social media that you 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 have to promote something other than your book, but promote yourself, and then people
Yeah.
will gravitate to the book.
Hmm.
Or have like, if you've noticed in Seinfeld, there are so many references to superheroes, Superman, almost in every episode.
Hmm.
Placement of product, right? I may have one of my books in the background, but I'm talking about another book, but I don't even mention my book at all. It's
Hmm.
just that not just me, but and I'm trying to help the community because Eric Bishop and a lot of folks at FX Reagan, you guys have been so good and nice to me that I want to be able to help too, because it's way for I've never submitted any of my books to an agent. I don't even have an agent.
Hmm.
I, I just haven't done it. Um, because I don't want to be, the 10th, maybe this book will hit it. But we're not going to put a lot of money in it, right? But I can say, oh, you know
Hmm.
what? I can take that money. I can print it as good as a book as anybody. And have fun marketing it. I mean, again, I do book sales at Kroger's. I mean, come on. I mean, I am the hardest working man in publishing, and I'll
I
do, different places to do book signings. McKinney Book Festival, McKinney, Texas, the 22nd and 23rd of this month. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be one in Frisco, Texas. I'm going to do the grand opening of the Barnes and Noble in Rockwall, Texas, on the end of the month, and I do the book signings at Barnes and Noble here, not because they have a PR firm doing me, because I go in there and I hunt, right?
yeah. But
You
it's
know,
also fun, right?
yeah, it's of course meet people. Oh, yeah, I love it.
you get to meet people.
Yeah.
It's like it's I think it's the equivalent of being a politician without having to lie to people.
Yeah. And I meet so many interesting people. And I have friends that I've met now that I actually, you know, we go to dinner or whatever. So I do like that. And I do like telling the stories. Um, then I like the feedback, from those people. And I like talking to the young kids about it because I want them, I said, you know what? Reading is important, but reading is power. Knowledge is power, right? The more knowledge you have, the more powerful you can be because then you can have a conversation I can have a conversation probably on anything.
Yeah.
And because I read a lot and watch TV or whatever, but you've got to be able to converse, intelligently. You have to go there. I don't have to talk about how to split an atom, you know. So I know what happens when you do. So, that's all you need.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, Travis, thank you so much. Why don't
Thank
you
you.
why don't you give me a list of your books and where people can get them?
Okay. So the first in the 20th Century War stories is one of four. You can pick
Hmm.
that up anywhere, or order it Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, anywhere, independent bookstores. One of four. Um, this will get you, this book. The other one is coming out in October 16th, War on the Porch. It's already available for pre-order on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere already. And then I do have a thriller out called Flames of Deception, and you would think that you're reading today's headlines. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a part of the Team Texarkana series.
Nice. Nice. Well, thank you, Travis, for
Thank you.
joining us, and everyone check out Travis's book. He is a dadlet extraordinaire, a granddadlet.
Oh, yeah.
And thank him so much for coming on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Had a great time. Thank you.
Our time together has come to an end. It's time to return to your wife, kids, and friends. It's time to pick up those books you forgot while you wait for the next Dad Lit Pod.